And here we are into our polishing room here in our competence center. As you can see here, we have a lot of different machines which we use to test our polishing compounds. We are using Makita machines, flex rotary machines. We are using DeWalt, I'm pretty sure you're familiar with those machines. Rotary buffer, we are using DA polishers from Rupes, DA polishers from Flex. And we are also using even the mini polishers from Flex and Rupes here to test our polishing compounds and to train our customers here. And I'm gonna show you our two-step system now with two or better three different kinds of machines. I'm gonna show you how to do our recommended system in a two-step way with a rotary machine from Flex and the finish with a forced rotation machine by Makita. And on the next slide, I'm gonna show you our two-step system only worked with a high-stroke dual action polisher from Flex. Here you guys can see we have a uni-black painted metal sheet on our table. And what we are gonna do firsthand is we're gonna sand it with P2000. P2000 is actually a medium up to a heavy defect. This is something which is rarely on a paintwork. You can go even higher with a P1500 sanding grit on the surface if you want. There is no difference in the usage of the products. You can also remove a P1500, no problem. So, for preparing the surface, as you can see, we're taking an Abralon 2000 sanding grit here. We're gonna take our orbital sanding machine, which is air driven. And of course, we're gonna do a wet sanding here. And we are wet sanding the surface, so a little bit of water here and a little bit of water on our sanding paper. And now let's sand. Okay, this is it. You've seen that we applied a P2000 sanding grit on our surface. Now we're gonna wipe off the paint which we removed, and you guys can see that we have a very, very nice and evenly P2000 sanding grit on our paintwork here now. And the next task is to remove this sanding grit from the surface. And for this, we're gonna do our classic two-step system, which we recommend. We are using this Flex rotary machine here, which is a 150 millimeter backing plate. And we are using that with our red foam, our heavy cut foam, which has a red backing plate to show you this is made for the heavy cut compound. And we're gonna use the H9 heavy cut, which also has a red stripe around it to show you that this is heavy cut. Red is always heavy cut for us. So red polish, red foam pad, and you have the right way to start. It's pretty important that if you are putting the pad on your polisher, that you centrate it, that you have it perfectly in the middle, that your machine is not dancing around. And of course, we need to apply polishing compound on the surface. Since our polishing compounds are a little bit like yogurt, shake it up a little bit before so you can apply it better on your polishing foam. Apply a small amount in the inner circle of the polishing pad. That's mainly enough. Put the cord around your neck so the cord does not jump over the paintwork, and please remove all watches and rings, like your engagement ring, from your hand, that you do not scratch the paint while working on it. Then we set the machine to a speed setting of 1 to spread the product evenly on the surface. That we have an even coverage on the surface. Afterwards, we're going to change our machine to a speed setting of 3, so we have 1200 rounds per minute, and now we're going to polish that. Key to remove the defects from the surface is temperature. You need to achieve a special temperature to remove the defects from the surface. To know that if you are at the right temperature, please use the back of your hand, put it on the paintwork and count on your head until 23. If you get burned immediately after you put your hand on the surface, you got too high. If you do not feel anything and you feel like you are in Alaska, then you're too low from the temperature. So get a nice warm summer somewhere in between 45 up to 60 degrees to remove Celsius, to remove the defects from the surface. Also, you can use an infrared thermometer to check if you are at the right temperature. And as you guys see, we have here 52 degrees on the surface. This is the perfect temperature to remove all the surface defects. So get yourself one, they're not so expensive, and this will help you work on the paintwork very, very much. How do I know if I polished correctly and that all of the agglomerates inside of our polishing compound became small and fall into the primary grain? If you look on the surface and you see that the polishing compound became a very oily film on the surface like this, you're doing it right. So we have this oily film here which we need, so let's check our surface afterwards. Awesome. If you take a closer look now, you see that we removed the P2000 sanding grit, but of course we left behind some polishing marks, which is pretty normal. And to see if we really removed all of our defects, let's take our silicone and wax remover, which is a concentrate and diluted 1:1 here. Let's spray a bit on the surface, and now let's remove the polishing oils and see if we removed the sanding grit. Of course, use your light of choice to make all defects more visible, and you guys can see the sanding grit here in the middle where we polished correctly is now completely gone. But as you see, we do have holograms on the surface, and we also have marks from polishing. And to remove that, we need to go for a second step. And the second step is with our Makita, which is a forced rotation machine, which oscillates and also goes in a rotary mode at the same time. So I told you that we removed the P2000 sanding grit here with the rotary machine, and we left behind some polishing marks and also holograms from the cutting stage. And to remove them, we do need our forced rotation machine, the Makita PU5000C, to remove now the marks which we left behind and to remove the holograms. On this side, we're gonna use our M302, our micro cut, which is a specialized micro polishing compound for permanent removal of sanding grids from P3000 and also to remove holograms and cutting marks. And we do need our micro cut pad, and as you guys already have seen at the heavy cut bottle and pad, here we have the same. We have our violet stripe and our violet black backing plate. So we know those two belong together. Also again, put the pad right in the center of your polishing machine and shake up your polishing compound a bit and apply a generous amount on your pad to remove the cutting marks which we left here. Also again, cord behind your back, no scratching on the paint, speed setting 1. Let's spread the polishing compound a bit. And after we spread that, now we're gonna go on speed level 5. So this means 6,800 oscillating rotations per minute. So it's a lot. You guys can already see how oily the polishing compound got. This means that we did a very, very good job in removing all the scratches from the previous stage. Take your microfiber towel again and wipe off all the excess product, polishing oils and grease from the surface. So let's check out. As you see, now we have high gloss black finish on this paintwork here. We have no holograms left. We have no haze. We have no micro scratches. It's a perfect piece of paintwork which we have here right now. Perfect surface. And of course, even after degreasing the surface with our silicone and wax remover, we still have a perfect surface, so no covering up. And this is one way to work with our system. And I do know a lot of you guys are not using a rotary or a forced rotation machine anymore. Most of you guys are now tending to use a dual action polisher. This is because it is a lot safer than to work with a rotary machine. You do not inflict the same amount of heat on the surface. So less damage potential, and I can totally understand that. Also, we're going to do exactly the same. We are taking a 50 millimeters high stroke dual action polisher here from Flex, and we're taking our red foam, which we are using for the heavy cut. And we're going to do the same process here on the right side, but with a dual action polisher. same work way, cord behind your back, spreading a bit of the compound on the surface, spread it, speed setting 1, and if you spread that, turn it on maximum and let's go. Okay, we're done with our cutting stage, and as you can already see, even through the polishing oils, that we removed our sanding grid from the surface. Here you guys can see that our P2000 sanding grid in the middle is gone while using a dual action polisher. So you can also work with our pad and with our polishing compound on a dual action polisher machine. Why is that? Because the polishing compound and the polishing grain inside of the polishing compound is not smart enough to understand if it is used on a rotary or on a dual action polishing machine. So you can use them on both. Okay, we have to remove the micromarring and the polishing trails and also the hazing which we left behind with this machine. A dual action polisher cannot leave behind a hologram because holograms are defects which are mainly caused by rotary machines because they are rotating on a right side version all the time. We cannot inflict holograms with a dual action polisher, but what is going to happen is a hazing, and we can see that here on the surface. The surface became a little bit grayish, and to remove that we are gonna go for our microcut pad and our microcut and finish, because I want to show you the same thing but now with a different attempt. Here the P301 is a micro-cutting compound which can remove sanding grids from P3000 and holograms and polishing trails and micromarring and hazing from the surface, but it also contains a wax, so it leaves behind an amount of protection. If your customer wants a quick job, if you want to finish a very delicate surface with a very delicate paintwork, and you do not want to cause any kind of micro scratches or marring after you polished it completely, then go for the P301. It will leave behind a very, very nice finish with a very good protection. Also apply a generous amount of the polishing compound on your pad. Speed setting of 1, cord behind the back. Spread it a bit on the surface. And if you spread that over the surface, let's go for speed setting 6. Okay, now let's check our surface which we acquired. Give the wax a little bit of time to bond with the surface. So let it dwell on the surface for 30 seconds up to 1 minute. And when you have done that, take your microfiber towel of choice and remove the rest from the surface. So now we see here where we polished, we have a flawless surface. No scratches, no hazing, no micromarring, nothing but pure, perfect black in the middle. There's also a feedback when we take our hands and put them on the surface. Here, due to the wax, we have a very slick surface. You will feel that and you can even hear that. Here, it's not protected and you can hear the squeaking of my hand. Here, it is protected and you hear nothing. It's just a slick, perfectly black surface. Some more information for you guys. We do have our polishing pads, which we used here right now in different measurements. We have them in 150 millimeter, we have them in 130 millimeter, we have them for your 80 millimeters, and we also have them new in our system in the small size here to be used on a Rupes hybrid, for example, or to be used on a Flex PXE. Those are 55 millimeters diameter, and you can perfectly put them on this small polishing machine and use it for your door jambs, for the engine bay, or for every kind of corner where you need a smaller polishing machine. Aside from that, I do have something very, very interesting and special for you. It's just a benefit on top. It's like the cherry on top of everything now. This is this guy here. It's called Thermopad. Where do you get the Thermopad? We do have the Thermopad in our headlight restoring kit. This is a kit where you have all needed polishing compounds and tools which you need to brighten up your headlights. And since when you polish on polycarbonate, which is the ground material, the raw material for most headlights, you need to be very cautious when it comes to temperature. You're not allowed to go over 45 degrees of Celsius on the headlight to not damage it and deform it. And this little guy here has a very, very special ability. You can see it has one orange surface and it has a black backing plate. And if we polish with this here on a surface now, it gives us an optical feedback if we are polishing too hot or not. Now the surface is still orange, as you can see. But if we put on a little bit of pressure, the surface now turned yellow. And this is the visible feedback this Thermopad is giving you that you reached 45 degrees. And when you're polishing a headlight, use it. Sometimes take it back from the headlight, control it, and if it's still orange, you're on the perfect temperature. Has it turned yellow, you're over 45 degrees, and you've done it. Okay guys, this is it from me. Thank you very much for your time.